Have you ever noticed that two people can earn the exact same salary, live in the same city, and yet 10 years later, one of them has built real wealth while the other is still living paycheck to paycheck? Same income, same opportunities, completely different outcomes. And the difference has almost nothing to do with math, intelligence, or luck. It has everything to do with psychology. Today, we are going to go deep into the hidden mental patterns that keep most people financially stuck their entire lives without ever realizing it. These are not obvious mistakes. These are invisible beliefs, emotional triggers, and psychological traps that feel completely rational in the moment. And that is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Stay with me through this video because by the end, you are going to understand your relationship with money on a level that most people never reach in their entire lifetime. And once you see these patterns, you cannot unsee them. If you're new here, welcome. Consider subscribing if this is the kind of clarity you've been looking for. Let us start with something uncomfortable. Most people think their financial problems are about money. They are not. They are about identity. Here is what that means. From the time you were a child, you were absorbing messages about what money is, who deserves it, and what kind of person has it. Maybe you grew up hearing things like, "We cannot afford that," or "Rich people are greedy," or "Money does not grow on trees." These phrases seemed innocent at the time. They were probably just your parents expressing stress. But your developing brain did not process them that way. Your brain filed them away as facts about reality, and slowly, quietly, they became part of your identity. Psychologists call this your money script. It is the unconscious narrative you carry about money, wealth, and your worthiness to have financial success. And research consistently shows that most people never examine these scripts. They just live by them. They make financial decisions based on beliefs they formed before they were 10 years old, and they have never once questioned whether those beliefs are actually true. Think about that for a second. You would not trust a 10-year-old to run your finances today. But most people are essentially doing exactly that because their financial decisions are still being driven by the beliefs of that child. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Your money script does not just affect how you spend. It affects how much you allow yourself to earn. There is a concept called the financial thermostat, and it explains something that financial advisors notice all the time. When people come into unexpected money, whether through an inheritance, a bonus, or even a lottery win, a huge percentage of them end up back at roughly the same financial level within a few years. Not because they are stupid, not because they lack discipline, but because their internal thermostat, their psychological sense of what they deserve and what feels normal, pulls them back to their set point. This is not a theory. Studies on lottery winners have shown that many of them return to their previous levels of happiness and financial stability within just a few years. The money changes, but the psychology does not. And without changing the psychology, the money eventually finds a way to disappear. So what is your financial thermostat set to? Think about the highest income you have ever consistently earned and felt comfortable with. That is probably close to your current set point. And anything above that might actually feel uncomfortable, even threatening, without you consciously realizing it. Let us talk about scarcity mindset, because this is one of the most widespread and least understood psychological traps when it comes to money. Scarcity mindset is not just thinking you do not have enough money. It is a mental state where your cognitive bandwidth gets hijacked by financial stress. When researchers at Harvard and Princeton studied this phenomenon, they found that people under financial pressure make worse decisions across the board, not just with money. Their IQ scores in measurable terms dropped when they were focused on financial problems. It is like financial stress takes up so much mental RAM that there is not enough left for good decision-making. And here is the brutal irony. The people who most need to make smart financial decisions are often the people whose mental bandwidth is most consumed by financial stress. The very condition of being broke impairs the thinking needed to stop being broke. That is not a character flaw. That is neuroscience. But scarcity mindset goes even deeper than that. When you grow up without enough money, your brain learns to optimize for the short term. Because when survival is uncertain, the future feels hypothetical. Why save for 30 years from now when you are not sure about this week? This is completely logical from a survival standpoint, but it becomes a catastrophic trap when your income actually does improve, because the short-term thinking patterns persist even when the scarcity no longer does. This is why many people, the moment they start earning more, immediately upgrade their lifestyle. New car, bigger apartment, nicer clothes. The income goes up and the spending goes up to match it almost instantly. Financial experts call this lifestyle inflation, and it is one of the most reliable ways to ensure that no matter how much more you earn, you never actually get ahead. Now let us talk about emotional spending, because this is where things get really personal. Money is one of the most emotionally charged subjects in human psychology. It is tied to feelings of safety, power, love, worth, and freedom. And because it carries so much emotional weight, it becomes one of the most common tools people use to manage their emotions. Feeling stressed? Retail therapy. Feeling lonely? Order something online and get that little hit of excitement when it arrives. Feeling powerless? Buy the expensive thing that signals status and makes you feel temporarily in control. None of this is conscious. It is emotional regulation through spending. Here is the thing, though. It works. In the short term, spending really does make people feel better. There is genuine dopamine release when you buy something new. The problem is that this creates a loop. You feel bad. You spend, you feel better briefly. Then the financial consequences of the spending add new stress, which makes you feel bad again, which drives more spending. It is a cycle that is extremely difficult to break because each individual step feels completely justified. And social media has made this dramatically worse. Every time you scroll through your feed, you are being shown a curated highlight reel of people living their best lives. Studies show that heavy social media use is linked to increased materialism and decreased financial satisfaction. You compare your real life to everyone else's filtered version, and you feel the urge to close that gap through spending. This is not weakness. This is the predictable psychological response to a system that has been engineered to create dissatisfaction and drive consumption. And if you're at a point where you want more clarity around your money, not just ideas, but a way to actually see what's happening in your financial life, this is exactly why the Trip to Wealth Command Center is being built. It's a simple system designed to bring your income, spending, and long-term growth into one clear view, so you can finally understand where you are, where things are leaking, and what direction actually makes sense for you. Because awareness is powerful, but structure is what turns that awareness into progress. If you want to explore it, you can join the early access list below and secure a small discount as an early supporter. Every financial life needs a system. This is simply a place to begin. Let us shift gears and talk about something that trips up even people who think they have their financial act together. Loss aversion. Loss aversion is one of the most documented findings in behavioral economics. Research famously demonstrated that the pain of losing money feels roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the equivalent amount. In other words, losing $100 feels about twice as bad as finding $100 feels good. Now think about what this does to financial behavior. It makes people hold on to losing investments too long because selling means locking in a loss, and that feels unbearable. It makes people avoid investing altogether because the possibility of losing money looms larger than the possibility of gaining it. It makes people choose the safety of doing nothing over the risk of doing something, even when doing nothing is objectively the worst choice over time. Loss aversion is why people keep money in savings accounts earning almost nothing when inflation is quietly eroding its purchasing power every year. Technically, the number in your account is stable or growing slightly. But in terms of what that money can actually buy you, it is shrinking. Yet moving it into investments feels risky, and the potential loss feels more real and more threatening than the certain slow loss from inflation. So people stay put and call it being careful. There is also something called the status quo bias, which is closely related. People have a powerful preference for things staying the same. Change feels dangerous. Inaction feels safe. Even when the status quo is demonstrably bad, the psychological effort required to change it is a significant barrier. This is why people stay at jobs that underpay them for years without negotiating or leaving. The status quo of that job, even if it is limiting, feels more comfortable than the uncertainty of asking for a raise or looking for something better. The psychological cost of potential rejection or change outweighs the financial cost of staying put, at least in the short term. Here is another one that almost nobody talks about: the psychology of financial shame. Shame is probably the single most destructive emotion when it comes to financial health. When people feel deeply ashamed about their financial situation, they tend to avoid looking at it. They do not open bank statements. They do not check their credit score. They do not budget because budgeting would mean confronting numbers that feel humiliating. They do not ask for help because admitting financial struggle feels like admitting a fundamental failure as a person. And the avoidance makes everything worse. Problems that could have been caught and managed early spiral into crises. Interest compounds. Opportunities to course-correct pass by. All because the emotional pain of facing the reality feels worse than the financial pain of ignoring it. Shame also prevents people from talking about money, which means they never learn from others, never get advice, and never realize that their struggles are incredibly common. The silence makes everyone feel uniquely broken, which deepens the shame, which deepens the avoidance. It is a vicious cycle that financial education alone cannot fix, because the barrier is emotional, not intellectual. If something in this chapter shifted the way you see your financial life, take a moment and write the word awareness in the comments. Not as a signal to me, but as a small commitment to yourself, that you're no longer just managing money by habit, but starting to see it with intention. Because real change doesn't begin with action. It begins the moment you start seeing things differently. Let us talk about the future self problem, because this one is fascinating. When neuroscientists scan people's brains while they think about their future selves, the activity pattern looks remarkably similar to when they think about strangers, not when they think about themselves. Your brain does not fully register your future self as you. It treats that person almost like someone else. This has enormous implications for saving money. Putting money into a retirement account means giving up something real and tangible right now to benefit a stranger who vaguely resembles you. Of course that feels hard. From your brain's perspective, you are literally sacrificing for someone else. This is why even people who know intellectually that they should save for retirement often cannot make themselves do it consistently. The future self feels abstract and distant. The present self feels immediate and real, and the present self always has very compelling reasons why it needs the money right now. Psychologists have found that one of the most effective ways to counteract this is to increase your sense of connection to your future self. When people are shown age-progressed photos of themselves and made to think concretely about their future lives, their willingness to save increases significantly. The more real your future self feels, the harder it is to sacrifice them for current comfort. Now, I want to talk about what actually changes financial behavior, because understanding the problems is only half the equation. The first thing is this: you have to start treating money as an emotional subject, not just a logical one. Most financial advice treats money as a math problem. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference. Done. And mathematically, that is correct. But if people actually behaved mathematically, financial advisors would not have a job. The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it is almost entirely emotional and psychological. The second thing is this: you have to understand your own money scripts before you can rewrite them. This means actually sitting down and asking yourself some uncomfortable questions. What did money mean in the house you grew up in? What emotions come up when you think about becoming wealthy? Do you believe wealthy people are fundamentally different from you? Do you believe you deserve financial security? These are not comfortable questions, but they are the ones that actually matter. When people do this kind of honest self-examination and find the beliefs that are driving their financial behavior, they can begin to question those beliefs and replace them with ones that are actually based on their adult understanding of reality rather than their childhood interpretation of their family's stress. The third thing is building systems that override psychology rather than relying on willpower. Here is the truth about willpower. It is a finite resource. It gets depleted throughout the day by every decision you make. Relying on willpower to save money means you are depending on a resource that is least available at exactly the moments when you are most tempted to spend. After a long, stressful day, your willpower is running on empty. That is precisely when you order the expensive food or make the impulse purchase online. Systems work where willpower fails. Automatic transfers to savings accounts remove the decision entirely. You never have to exercise willpower about saving because the saving happens before you ever see the money. Automatic investment contributions work the same way. You are engineering your environment so the right behavior happens by default, not by constant, effortful choice. The fourth thing is changing your relationship with discomfort. Financial growth inherently involves discomfort. Learning new things is uncomfortable. Delaying gratification is uncomfortable. Facing your real numbers is uncomfortable. Having conversations about money is uncomfortable. Investing when markets are volatile is uncomfortable. Every significant financial advancement requires tolerating some level of discomfort. People who build wealth are not people who never feel financial anxiety or uncertainty. They are people who have learned that discomfort is temporary and survivable, and they take action anyway. They have reframed discomfort from a signal to stop to a signal that they are growing. People who stay broke often have a very low tolerance for financial discomfort. Not because they are weak, but because they have never been shown that the discomfort leads somewhere worth going. When your experience has been that taking financial risks leads to pain and failure, avoiding discomfort is a completely rational protective response. Changing this requires changing the experiences and evidence you have about what happens when you push through that discomfort. Let us talk about social environment, because this might be the most underrated factor in financial outcomes. You have probably heard that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. When it comes to money, this is not just motivational poster wisdom. It is backed by real research. Your financial norms, meaning what feels like a normal amount to spend, to save, to earn, to aspire to, are heavily calibrated by the people around you. If everyone in your social circle is spending every dollar they earn on experiences and things, saving feels weird and antisocial. If everyone around you is complaining about how hard it is to get ahead and treating wealth as something that only happens to lucky or corrupt people, ambition starts to feel pointless or even embarrassing. Conversely, if your social environment treats investing and saving as normal adult behavior, if the people around you talk openly about financial goals and celebrate financial milestones, those behaviors become normalized for you too. This does not mean you have to abandon your friends, but it does mean being intentional about expanding your environment to include people who have the financial relationship you want to develop. Books, podcasts, communities, mentors. The stories and perspectives you expose yourself to shape what feels possible and normal. One more thing I want to address because it is the elephant in the room. Some people watching this are going to be thinking, this is all well and good, but what about systemic barriers? What about the fact that the economic system is genuinely stacked against certain groups? What about real poverty, real discrimination, real structural disadvantage? And that is a completely legitimate and important point. Psychology is not the only factor in financial outcomes. Structural and systemic forces are absolutely real and absolutely matter. The conversation about psychology does not mean that personal belief alone can override systems of inequality. It does not mean that if you just think the right thoughts, you can transcend poverty. That would be dishonest. What it does mean is this. Within whatever constraints your circumstances create, your psychology either expands or contracts your possibilities. You can be in difficult circumstances and have a psychology that constantly looks for the small opportunities within those constraints, that holds on to dignity and agency, that keeps building even when progress is slow. Or you can be in the same circumstances with a psychology that has fully surrendered to helplessness and sees no point in trying. The external circumstances might be identical, but the outcomes over time will not be. Psychology matters at every income level, and understanding your own psychology is one of the most empowering and accessible things you can do, regardless of where you are starting from. So where does this leave us? The reason most people stay broke without knowing it is not because they lack information about personal finance. Information is everywhere. It is because their relationship with money is driven by unconscious scripts formed in childhood, by emotional patterns they have never examined, by psychological traps that feel like common sense, and by a social environment that reinforces staying exactly where they are. The path forward starts with awareness. It starts with looking honestly at your own beliefs about money and where they came from. It continues with building systems that work with your psychology rather than against it. It deepens through expanding your environment and what you believe is possible for you. Money is not just a numbers game. It is a mind game. And the most important financial work you will ever do is the work you do on your own thinking. If this video made you see your relationship with money differently, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Not to judge them, but because real financial change almost always starts with a conversation or a moment of clarity that someone else sparked. And subscribe if you want to keep going deeper into the psychology of success, wealth, and the mental patterns that shape everything. The version of you that is financially free is not fundamentally different from who you are right now. They just see money differently. And that is something you can start changing today. And that's all for today's video. Until next time, stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.